all of the baseball conversation that we just had, that had speculation about and that we were asking questions to each other about, we can ask the man in charge. Coach Jay Johnson coming off a weekend sweep. About as good of an opening weekend as you can anticipate having to start the season. Feel like everybody got an opportunity. Coach, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you jumping on. Won't keep you long. You had a long weekend. Obviously, you got 2 games to prepare for this weekend, but we always love having you. Lloyd was very excited that you were coming back on today.
Yeah, double texted. I usually don't do that.
Here we go. Let's go.
Let's go. I love it, Coach. All right, let's get it right into the conversation. Obviously, there's a lot of talk going into the season about how good the pitching staff could be. A lot of unknowns, a lot of young guys coming in, a whole new starting rotation than you had last year. Can't imagine that you envisioned it going any better than it did this past weekend. I mean, I don't know if LSU's ever had a 3-game weekend where they only walked 2 guys and they struck out, I think it was 45. Talk a little bit about how proud you are of the guys, and did it exceed the expectations you had of this pitching staff the first weekend in?
Yeah, they obviously did a great job throwing strikes, and, the game's about controlling the strike zone on both sides, not chasing and swinging at balls on offense and attacking it from the pitcher's mound or what we call suffocating the zone. And they did a great job of that this weekend. Obviously, the velocity, of so many guys grabs a lot of headlines, but for me, it was them landing all their pitches for strikes, and it just never seemed like we were chasing the count, and that was probably what I was most pleased with, and they did a great job.
And on the flip side, you obviously had a bunch of young guys on the offensive side, right? You had Curiel, which I'm going to ask you this. We actually had this debate. Is it Curiel or Curiel?
The second one, yeah.
Curiel.
So, you don't know either.
Wow. Curiel.
Which one is it, Coach? Can you say it for us, please?
Curiel.
Not even a Curiel. It's Curiel. Okay. So Curiel, opening day start, right? You had a bunch of new guys. Dickinson comes in, has a great opening weekend. You have Aaron Beatty getting in there. You had Luis Hernandez getting in there. What's your thoughts, or I guess what is your take on how the offense performed, especially the new guys that came in and kind of had to assimilate to the offense and to the culture here?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I think it's a tough weekend to evaluate. It's cold, it's windy. We had to be patient for sure. I think we saw like 75% breaking balls through the course of the weekend, and so a little bit of that is hard to judge, but I thought they did a good job of controlling the strike zone first and foremost. I thought we did a good job of, taking the free bases, and then for the most part cashing in on them. We had 2 instances, one where we got a little bit unlucky, and then one where we didn't execute. But that can happen, early in the season. So I thought it was fine. Like, I'm not gonna, anoint us as some offensive juggernaut, and at the same time, I think we can be a really good team, offensively, and there's speed, there's power, there's solid hitting skills. There's an understanding of how to play within the game. And, that's something we just want to build on and be as complete as we can, so we can win a 2-1 game or a 13-9 game. And our players will tell you that's really important to me and to how we roll as a program, that you can win any type of game.
Coach, now the 2 most important things is obviously the win and the competition of how these guys go out there and they play to go about their business. But for you, especially because of how the last couple of years are, I think people kind of forget about the rule change. How big was it for you to be able to play 9 in all 3 and kind of get guys in and get those at-bats and get those innings and do what they need to do?
Well, first off, I want to give a massive shout out to Purdue Fort Wayne, because we got dumped in September. And that's a tough late drop for like an opening weekend. And so I put it out there. I mean, we paid a big guarantee to come down here because we had to find somebody. I mean, we were looking at having to try to join some tournament or go on a road, probably for the first time in LSU baseball history, for opening weekend.
Wow.
In September. So really appreciative to Coach Schreiber. He's had a really good career as a college baseball coach, and that they came down here. So that was kind of the first thing that really stuck out about that. And then I wanted to say that publicly. So I actually forgot your question, Jared. Can you repeat it, please?
I said, well, y'all got to play all 9, all 3. And
that's a whole different subject. So the SEC now has the 10-run rule. Like, as the SEC team, we have no say. We're like locked into the 10-run rule unless the other team objects. And I was really happy that they objected, and it was great. I mean, I think, in all 3 games, we filled every spot in the lineup card where a different player finished the game in that spot than whoever the starter was. And, we have guys worthy of playing time. We have guys that we're going to need to get opportunities for the development of this team, but there's a lot of guys that we feel like are kind of the next wave of players, in this program are here right now. And you can only play 9 at a time. So to kind of get that first one out of the way, whether it was first pitching appearance, first at bat, first time in the field for a lot of guys, was a real positive of this weekend.
Yeah, Coach, I'm glad you mentioned the competition and the depth that you have. And obviously, it's 3 games in. Nobody's saying anything other than, hey, this will look really good. It's hard to project the future because it was the first 3 games of the season. But with that being said, you have a lot of guys on your team, on the offensively specifically, that are vying for at bats. There's only 9 guys you can start. There's only so many at bats you can have. The outfield in particular feels like it's as talented, as deep as it's been in a long time. You start the first game of the season with Larson on the bench. Then Larson comes in the next 2 games and he's lights out at 7 RBIs, and all of the outfielders played really well. How do you envision being able? You've done a really good job of this, by the way, of the last 3 years you've been here.
Mikey, okay.
But of getting guys at bats, of putting guys in there, getting them opportunities. But how do you envision that playing out? How are you going to be able to go mix and match? Is it matchup based? Is it performance based? Is it just, hey, let's flip a coin and just see how we go?
Play a rover?
Yeah, I don't carry any coins in my pocket, so it could be anything. It could be anything that you said. What I will say is there's always a reason for doing what we're doing, in the short term and a little bit in the long term. Like, I think, at a place like LSU, you could just feel like you get spoiled and you're supposed to win every game that you play, and especially against, some of the non-conference competition. And I don't ever treat any game like that. Like, first and foremost, we're lining the team up to win the game that's in front of us. Now, when you have more than 9 starting caliber players, which I believe that we do, you have to think creatively about setting it up for their strengths. Like you mentioned, Ashton, not only did he have the great performance, when he started on Sunday, but Saturday, I believe we were in a 5-1 game or a 6-1 game, and we'd actually set the lineup for him to be able to pinch hit in a spot that he came up with runners on base, and he had a 2-run single.
Yeah.
And so, like, you just kind of look for those types of things. Like, I want to play him. I want to play Josh Pearson. I want to play Jake Brown. Obviously, want to play Stanfield and Curiel. I want to play the catchers.
Right. And
it goes beyond that. Like a player like Tanner Reeves had a really good preseason practice for us, and you saw him play and get at bats in all 3 games. Like, there's going to be some of that, but it's always just in the context of winning the game in front of us. And just, it's one of those things I rely on my experience of looking back at kind of what's worked and how to blend the whole thing together and keep everybody ready to roll. And I do take pride in that being good at that part of the job.
Coach, 1 weekend through it obviously doesn't mean much. There's so much left. There's so much meat left on the bone. But 7 at-bats, 5 walks. How many come take a seat right here? Let's talk about his situations. Do you expect to kind of have with Jared Jones going through the rest of the year and kind of letting him know what he may see and what he has to be ready to do when he actually gets an opportunity?
Yeah, so, we've talked a lot about Barry Bonds here recently, and think about how many games that Barry Bonds went 1 for 2 with a home run, 2 walks, 4 quality at bats. And I don't even know if they did exit velo back then, but both balls, but both balls put in play were hit 105 miles an hour. And so that's kind of our bar, you know what I mean? And like, look, like everybody has strategy and this and that, and he's earned the reputation of being one of the best and most dangerous power hitters in the country, but like it's not going to work. Like to just put him on base, like you're putting a lot of pressure on your pitcher by doing that. And so I'm not too worried about it. And more importantly, I mean, he's improved in his whole time here. Yeah. He's improved a lot in the last 3 weeks. Like, I mean, you might go look at it. Like, I think I looked today, he was 2 for 7 with 5 walks. If anybody is on base at a 600 clip, that means our team is going to win, you know? So I'm good with that. And he did a great job this weekend. I think 3 of his outs were hit 105 miles an hour or better. So it's not just about the homers or the walks, but man, that's going to work out more times than not. So, good start for Jared.
Yeah, and Jared being a part of this last year where it felt like it was almost feast or famine with the home run ball, like with Tommy White, Bear Jones. Now you have Bear Jones stealing bases. On Friday, it felt like you kind of wanted to get out in front of that and show the crowd that this is a different version of how we're going to play baseball. And then Saturday we can also do this too.
Well, you know, I don't know about like the style thing. Like, what's baseball? Baseball scoring runs and preventing runs. And I actually did a study on this about 3 weeks ago. Since the bats changed, so I think it was 2011, if I remember right.
Yep. Mikie's very aware.
Yep. My first year, my junior year.
I was only I think I was associate head coach at USD at the time. That was my worst year of coaching in my entire career.
It was brutal.
The bats changed, but I took it. So I guess it's been like 14 or 15 teams now at LSU, and the highest scoring team was obviously 2023. The second highest scoring team was 2022, my first year. The third was 2017, the year that they played for the championship. And the fourth was actually 2024, last year, which I actually was happy about because I didn't think we were that good, to be honest with you. So, or we could have been better. So for me, the whole power, base stealing, bunting, like we want to be good at all of it. And if you came and watched practice, you see we're working to be good at all of it so we can win any type of game. And I always remind people, like in 23, it gets overlooked a lot because we hit 144 or 148 home runs. But in the postseason, like there are some real hallmark moments of us being able to execute. Like the first game against Tulane, we dropped down 2 perfect sacrifice bunts, jump out to a 5-run lead. Well, that's like a 100-run lead with Paul Skeens on the mound. Right. You know, Gavin Dugas was hitting the 4-hole, perfect what we call zero drag bunt against Tulane. Against Tennessee. They throw it into right field. We get 2-run cushion, and that sets the tone for the whole run right there. In the first game of the finals, in the first meeting with Florida, or the first inning, Trey Morgan executed a perfect hit and run, set the tone. Beloso drives in Dylan, I think, and we end up with a 1-run win. Yeah. And so it's just kind of been in the shadows of all the power, but it's always been there. And like I'm never going to do something to like impart like my style. Like we're going to impart scoring runs, which we've been very good at here, you know, for 3 years and 3 games.
Coach, so I love that you bring that up, but there's also like a feeling side of you that I know is kind of gotta warm you a little bit when you look at the speed that's at the top, when you look at the speed that's available at the bottom. Like, does that kind of bring you back to like that, like I guess like a comfortable feel for you, something where you're like, this feels super familiar, and obviously I'm not going to make them do anything. I'm going to let them go play to their strengths, but does that feel good for you?
Yeah, for sure. So first, you should play better defense if you're more athletic. Right. And I think we did. We had a catcher's interference error, and we had a PFP pitcher throwing error on like a swinging bunt on Saturday. And other than that, it was, you know, air-free baseball. Now, we struck out so many guys, there wasn't a ton of plays to be made. So let's hold the phone on calling us a great defensive team just yet. But good athleticism usually manifests itself in good defense.
Yep.
Another thing I do, like 2 weeks before the season, I bring my old college coach. He comes and watches us for like 3 or 4 scrimmages in a row and takes notes and kind of evaluates. And I mean, it jumped right off the top. He's like, all right, that's like you. That like reminds me of how you've always played and style of play and all those types of things. And frankly, what I've broken it down to here is winning in the SEC is different than winning in Omaha. And to do what we want, you have to do both. And I think this team is built for that. And to your point, Jared, we did it a little bit different way on Friday and Sunday than we did on Saturday. Actually, Friday we did it one way, Saturday we did it one way, and Sunday was a blend of both.
Coach, we talked a lot about the offense, but I think the pitching staff obviously is what everybody was impressed with this weekend. I know as a head coach, you sit there and you don't want to say too much before the season starts, and you just want the play to talk. But I think that you severely underplayed how extremely talented these guys are, because you hear everybody talk about William Schmidt, who was lights out, Maverick Rizzi, who was lights out, and then you forget that Kason Evans came in through and throwing 98, 99 Friday, and people aren't even talking about him. He was probably the third most impressive guy that came out of the pen over the weekend. Talk a little bit about those new guys, especially the 3 that I just mentioned, the 3 freshmen. We knew what to expect, obviously, from Chase Shores, how talented he is. They saw what Kate Anderson did last year. Anderson had some experience in college, but those 3 freshmen came in there early on and dominated. Can you talk a little bit about them and how their development has progressed over the last 5 months?
Yeah, happy to. All of them huge recruiting wins. I mean, huge recruiting wins to get them committed and signed 2 Novembers ago or last November, whatever. And then getting them through the draft. I mean, we certainly, some of our signees got picked up in the draft. I think we lost 4 of them, which, is what it is. But these guys all had an opportunity to go to pro baseball and decided that they want to be here. And it's going to work out just fine for all of those guys in terms of how much they're going to enjoy their life, for 2 or 3 years, and then be really prepared to make a quick ascent to Major League Baseball. And they all have the talent to pitch in the Major League someday. But for me, it's like the makeup piece that's separate. And I'll throw Cooper Williams in there too. So I will say all 4 of them. It's the talent. I mean, you don't have to be like a longtime baseball scout when those guys took the mound this weekend to go like, wow, that catches your attention. But they're all great people also. Like these exact players that I want to have in the program at LSU. And I'd say the same for William Schmidt, Kason Evans, Maverick Rizzi, Cooper Williams. Like, there's only 4 of them, but it just shows you how high the quality is that we want in going after here at LSU. And they all got a great future, and they got a great present here right now.
Coach, and I'm not talking about just this team, so I don't want it to feel like I'm talking about this team. But as a head coach, what helps you sleep better at night? Knowing that you have 5 to 6 guys that can start for you, or knowing that I can literally close my eyes and point out the pin which one that could come in, and either one of them's going to come and get the job done?
Yeah, no, so that's a good question. I'll take both. Yeah.
That's an easy answer. What do you mean?
He's one that did
it. I always laugh, like, people like will say like, what was your best coaching year? And, one will be there, will be one, we didn't go to a regional, but we won 34 games and we're like the first team out with a 6.28 ERA. That was a good coaching job. I don't, you can have a good team, with, okay pitching and great rest of it, but you can't have a great team if you can't pitch. And, obviously we saw that in 23, like, the fact that we were so deep, we survived, 4 season ending injuries to guys that also may be major league pitchers someday and still won the national championship. And that was because we had great depth on the pitching staff. And, we had to hit it really hard because, last year we did lead the country in strikeouts, and we sent more pitchers to pro baseball than any team in the history of the SEC. So, it's a lot of new, and there's still a lot of new, but the talent is obviously something we feel good about. And just like I talked about with the 4 freshmen, the makeup is really strong. We can utilize a lot of guys, if guys can go deep into the game and can certainly match up, and all of it is really important, and I'm really happy that a lot of those guys decided to be here.
Coach, you mentioned some injuries that have happened over the years, but now you have one of those guys is Chase Shores. How kind of almost fulfilling was it to see him go through that journey and be able to get that start on a Sunday and come back and kind of like start a new chapter in the same book?
Yeah, it's awesome. I love Chase. I said this in the media deal, like, you're probably not supposed to have favorites as a coach, but he's a very talented guy. He's one of the most talented guy, or one of the first guys like that chose us when we came to LSU. And, that was a big deal for us. And then we got him through the draft, and then he earned, a spot in the rotation as a freshman on that team. And he pitched great, and we threw him in the fire right away against Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Tennessee, and he pitched great, in the spots that we put him in on that team. And then when he got hurt, like, that was a thunderbolt, and we've talked about that before. So just kind of watching him from that point, how well he handled it, and every day of the last 18 months or 22 months, however long it's been now, to get back to the mound and see him run out there and, have success and look like the good pitcher and great pitcher that we think he is was really awesome. It's great for Chase, and he deserves it. It's also really, really great for our team and for our program.
That would have made 2023 much easier.
Yeah, well, and here's the deal. You as an offense, you think Sunday, okay, we're going to get a little let up. Purdue Fort Wayne or whoever is going to be playing on Sunday is like, damn, we got to face a guy throwing 100 now after we just went through Friday and Saturday and we're in brawls for 2 days. Now you got to face a guy throwing 100. Like, it's nice to have him at the back end of the rotation right now.
Yeah, 100%. And he's been getting better. I think Coach Eskey's done a really good job with these guys. And, it's not just the velocity. And that's what Coach Schreiber said to me. I talked to him for a few minutes after the game yesterday. It's just like they're landing all their off-speed pitches, the command, they're heading the count, they're mixing, they hold the ball well. You can't run because everybody's 1-1 to the plate. Right. They field their position. So, we take pride in all that stuff. And again, like, we want to make it really hard we want to be hard to play. Like, that's one of my goals is I want to be really, really hard to play. And like I said, Coach Eskey's doing a great job with those guys. And I think they're in a good headspace, and they should be very confident in their abilities. And, they're going to get tested a lot more than that, as we go forward. But I feel good about not just the talent, but the character piece.
Coach, so because of the built-in rivalry of what I'm about to kind of mention right here, I want to know if there was anything behind the scenes that happened. One, obviously, as a coach, I would imagine this had to feel really good watching him do this, but also because of who else is in the dugout.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, it already worked.
Let's go.
But because of the younger Pearson, the double down the right field line for his first at bat ever, how good did that feel as a coach? And did you look at Josh and be like, Jesus, if only you could do something like this?
No, man. Hey, man. Josh Pearson can do no wrong in my eyes.
Of course. Go.
Yeah, and it was really cool. Like, we did something different this year where, like, the players' families, they have, like, these tags, like, so everybody knows, like, and they're really sharp looking. Like, everybody knows if it's a parent of a player based on them wearing these, cool, fancy lanyards, and they get to come down on the field after the game. And I saw Bill and Anna, that's their mom and dad, their dad and mom, obviously. And I just was like, I grabbed Bill and I was like, dude, how cool a day was that? Like, both of them hit a double. I think it might have even been in the same inning.
Yeah.
We're on the field together at LSU. Like, that's got to go down as one of the coolest days of your life. And they're both good players, but they're just great people. You know what I mean? And like I mentioned with some of the pitchers earlier, like that's what has me cautiously optimistic. Because again, we're going to get tested. We're going to play a great schedule. Things aren't going to go whatever the score was today, 32-2 every time. But love the Pearsons and excited to have Josh here for one more year and John for another 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Coach, he's faster than he looks.
Yeah, he can move a little bit for a big guy.
Yeah, we put him into pinch run yesterday.
Tell you, you're making a statement.
He told Josh Simpson, our first space coach, I don't think I've ever been put into pinch run before.
Hey, you never know when your number's going to get called. Coach, great weekend. Obviously, we're looking forward to the weekends to come. Obviously, you got 2 midweek games tomorrow. A little matinee surprise for the squad. 2:00 game against Southern. Then you're on the road against Nichols. 2 midweek games. So obviously, season's starting to ramp up. We're looking forward to watching you throughout the course of the rest of the year, having you on the show, talking baseball with you. We enjoy always having you on. And good luck the rest of the way. Good luck this week. And looking forward to talking to you again next week.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, he's got to get back in against Southern.
Hey,
I get that thing right.